All right, what's up, everybody? Today we are digging deep into the archives of the Basement Bodybuilding notes page. This video is my honest experience and my honest thoughts on the push-pull leg split. This is something I've had in my notes. If you guys have been following the channel for a while, you know I have this massive Google Doc with like 1,000 video ideas. This has been one of my first ideas since I've made the channel, and I've never gotten around to it because there was something off about the video that I didn't like, and I couldn't put my finger on what it is. But I finally have it figured out. It's that I had it sorted out into a pros and cons of push-pull legs, and I don't think it's nuanced enough of a video method or a video structure to go over a split like that. So I don't like to do pros versus cons because it's either what are the great things and then what are the things that are really bad about this. I want to just give my thoughts. What was my experience with the split? So with that being said, let's get to it. So when it comes to push-pull legs, I think it's fun. I think it's enjoyable. And I know you guys know my thoughts on training enjoyment, but I think when it comes to the way that we innately want to train for hypertrophy, let's be real, hammering a muscle is so fun. Just smoking it into the ground. Whether it's optimal or not, it's enjoyable. It's a fun thing to do. It feels productive. Hammering a muscle or a movement pattern and the muscles involved in that movement pattern, which is what push-pull legs is, it honestly is fun. And this is arguably, in my opinion, better than a bro split. I think it's a little bit more of an advanced version, but it's more advanced as in it's more refined and optimized, I guess, is the way I see it. So the next point that I have about push-pull leg splits is I think they're, I don't want to say marketed, but I can't think of a better word. I think they're falsely marketed for the wrong crowd. I think what happened is you had a few influencers really run these push-pull leg splits 5, 6, 7, 8, maybe 10 years ago. And this is the problem with influencers, is that you get these guys that they either have really good genetics or they're on PEDs. And this isn't to black pill anybody or say you have to have perfect genetics to make good progress and be an influencer and have that type of physique, because that's certainly not the case. What I'm saying is that these guys, they can do anything and it will work because of either the genetics or the PEDs. And by no means is that an excuse for someone like me or you to not get to their level. We just have to actually program properly and be a little bit more articulate with our methods. So you see these influencers that maybe run a push-pull leg split, like it, which I'll get to this later, but it's more of like, in my opinion, a powerlifting or torso-focused program, which I think is obvious to people that have run this split before. And then they have these great physiques. And then when someone like me or you try it, we have this like powerlifter type physique. And I don't think it quite comes out to what we thought it would. And when you look at the logistics behind the program and look at it in a practical lens, it actually makes sense. And this is something that I unfortunately didn't realize until I'd completed the split. So hindsight's always 20/20. That's why I'm making this video, just to give you guys my thoughts on push-pull legs. And before I get any farther, I don't love or I don't hate this split. I'll give my concluding thoughts towards the end of this video, obviously. But I do think it's generally kind of marketed towards the hypertrophy or aesthetics lifters, and I don't think it does a good job of that entirely. It can in certain cases and in certain situations, but I think for the most part, this isn't a split that is best for that pursuit. I did make good progress overall in terms of putting on size, but I had a powerlifter's physique, and it wasn't aesthetic or proportionate. I'll put up a physique update that I had when I was running the split at my peak, and as you can see, my physique's kind of unbalanced. Like, I'm super back dominant. I have a decent chest. Like, my shoulders are pretty big, my arms are tiny. It's not a pretty physique, and I get that I'm still like an early intermediate at this point, but I don't think this split, if I ran it forever, would have gotten me to the physique I'm at today, and obviously it never ended up doing that if you've been following the channel. So I don't think this is a split you want to be running forever. Another point here is that it's honestly just a lot of days in the gym for no extra frequency, really. So you're still only training each muscle group twice a week, and training a muscle group twice a week is totally fine, and you can make great progress on that, and that's a general baseline that I recommend for most people, actually. So I have no issue with twice a week, and I actually advocate for it quite a bit. But to be in the gym 6 times a week and only train a muscle twice a week, I think that's where it becomes a little bit of an issue in certain cases. For myself, if I'm in the gym 6 times a week, I'm hitting a muscle 3 times that week. That's 150% of the frequency of twice a week, obviously. So if I'm in the gym 6 times a week like I am now, I'm hitting everything 3 times. I'm not doing any of this twice a week. I would just run an upper lower, and that will make more sense once I get to my next point in this video. So when it comes to intensity and junk volume, I do think intensity is difficult to maintain on a push-pull leg split. The onset of junk volume does come on a little bit quicker. There's a lot of what I would call ineffective crossover stimulus, and not to get too like word salady with you, but that's the best like way I could phrase it simply. I think you do a lot of similar movement patterns in a push-pull leg split. The name push-pull legs, aside from legs, it revolves around a movement pattern or similar movement patterns in that specificity window. It's a lot of, you do a horizontal push, and that hits your shoulders a little bit, it hits your triceps a little bit, but it doesn't actually stimulate them to grow. So you're getting this kind of buildup of fatigue without much stimulus. And for a beginner, this isn't something you have to worry about too much yet. But pretty quickly in your lifting career, especially if you don't have like elite top tier genetics, this is going to become a little bit of an issue. When I was doing a push-pull leg split, the biggest obstacle that I constantly faced was how quickly you would enter the junk volume territory in a push or a pull or even a leg day. What I'm saying here is if I'm doing a horizontal push, so let's say I'm doing a dumbbell bench followed by another horizontal push, so maybe like a low incline bench, followed by, say, like pec flies, and then something like an overhead press variation, whether it's machine free weight, whatever. And then it's like by the time you get to your isolations or even just like a tricep extension, your elbow's been through a lot of pressing, and it hasn't quite stimulated your tricep enough to grow, but you're too fatigued to actually get quality volume in, both physically and mentally, because you've been doing the same thing just over and over. It's a lot of repetition. So I know a lot of people might conflate this with, oh, well, your triceps are fatigued and they're stimulated as well, you're going to grow them. In my experience, this isn't the case, and I think this is why I had lagging arms for so long and why I'm just getting them caught up now. Because no matter how hard I would go at these movements, the intensity was always just lower because of that fatigue, but there was a lack of stimulus, and I think that's an issue. And I'll touch more on my recommendations for this later, but there's a reason why my arms were lagging from the split, and I think that's the reason why. When it comes to, I already touched on frequency actually. So just to kind of summarize this whole push-pull leg split experience, overall I did make good progress, especially in my back. I think you can train a variety of back movements in one day and make a lot of progress that way. When it comes to pushing movements, I did notice a lot of fatigue. Same with when I trained my biceps. I had a hard time training biceps effectively on a push-pull leg split. I know there's certain ways you can kind of work around this by adjusting the order of each exercise within that lift session, but overall, progress was good. I put on a decent amount of muscle, but it's definitely geared towards like a powerlifting physique, because essentially what this is a split that's designed to build hypertrophy in the muscles that are used for powerlifting. It's a push-pull legs. And what are the 3 lifts that you do in powerlifting? Squat, bench, deadlift. And that's exactly what the split reflects. It'll just build you muscle in those areas. So I think if you're a powerlifter or a power builder, this is a pretty good split for you. But the final verdict that I have here is overall, I do like it. I like push-pull legs. I don't hate it. I don't think it's like the worst split ever. Is it a little overrated? Yeah, probably, especially a few years ago for sure. I definitely wouldn't rule out going back to it, and here's why. So especially after an arm specialization phase, I don't think it's a bad idea to just kind of put on muscle on the bigger muscle groups, which this split does a good job of. It just misses those bodybuilding details. So I think if you're advanced and you need to specialize a bit more in, say, your back, your chest, your delts, your legs, it's not a bad idea to run the split and pack on muscle there. You just have to be super conscious of letting your arms and the smaller muscle groups lag behind, because those muscles that you're throwing at the end of these sessions are not getting trained that hard unless you have everything perfectly set up and you are a genetic freak in terms of being able to handle a lot of volume. So for most people, like myself included, this isn't the best split for developing your entire physique, just these bigger muscle groups. So, however, I think this split is best for arm dominant lifters to bring up their torso muscles, or for lifters who want to bias their torso and put arms on maintenance. And I wouldn't run the split as a baseline for years on end. So if you're naturally an arm dominant lifter, or you were just a bro that only did curls and push downs when you first started, push-pull legs can actually do a pretty good job. The only thing is the vast majority of people aren't in this situation. Most of us are torso dominant because genetics, right? No, it's because we didn't emphasize our arms enough in most cases. So I think running a push-pull leg split is a good idea if you have a balanced physique and you're looking to put on as much muscle as possible. But there are the drawbacks. I don't think you're getting enough frequency for everybody. I don't think I would make the best progress I could on twice a week. I think at this point, 3 times a week is pretty clearly better based on all the experience I have with twice and 3 times a week. And then when it comes to having just a balanced, proportionate physique, I don't think push-pull legs is the best option. I think it's a good short to mid-term option at certain points in your training career. I don't think it's best long-term. So I'll keep the video at that. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments.